properly reported. Did Stalin love children as much as Uncle Enver? Teacher Nora hesitated. Did he love them more? You know the answer, she said with a warm smile. It is possible that Stalin loved children. It is likely that children loved Stalin. What is certain, dead certain, is that I never loved him more than on that wet December afternoon when I scampered from the port to the little garden near the Palace of Culture, sweaty, shaky, and with my heart pounding so hard I thought I would spit it on the ground. I had run as fast as I could for more than a mile when I finally spotted the tiny garden. When Stalin appeared on the horizon, I knew I would be safe. He stood there, solemn as usual, with his unassuming coat, plain bronze shoes, and his right hand under his coat, as if supporting his heart. I stopped, looked around to ensure nobody was following me, and went closer. With my right cheek pressed against Stalin's thigh and my arms struggling to circle the back of his knees, I was not visible. I tried to catch my breath, closed my eyes, and began to count. 1, 2, 3. When I got to 37, I could no longer hear the dogs barking. The thundering sound of shoes stamping on concrete had become a distant echo. Only the slogans of protesters occasionally reverberated. Freedom! Democracy! Freedom! Democracy! When I became certain of my safety, I let go of Stalin. I sat on the ground and took a more careful look. The last drops of rain on his shoes were drying out, and the paint on his coat had begun to fade. Stalin was just as Teacher Nora had described him, a bronze giant with hands and feet much larger than I'd expected. Tilting my neck backwards, I lifted my head to confirm that his moustache really did cover the upper lip and that he smiled with his eyes. But there was no smile. There were no eyes, lips, not even a moustache. The hooligans had stolen Stalin's head. I covered my mouth to suffocate a scream. Stalin, the bronze giant with the friendly moustache who had been standing in the garden of the Palace of Culture since long before I was born, decapitated. Stalin, of whom Hangul would have said that he had seen the spirit of the world on a tank. Why? What did they want? Why did they shout, freedom, democracy, freedom, democracy? What did it mean? I had never given much thought to freedom. There was no need to. We had plenty of freedom. I felt so free that I often perceived my freedom as a burden and, occasionally, like on that day, as a threat. I had not meant to end up in a protest. I hardly knew what a protest was. Only a few hours before, I had been standing in the rain by the school gate, wondering which way to walk back home, whether to turn left, turn right, or walk straight on. I was free to decide. Each path raised different questions, and I had to weigh causes and consequences, reflect on the implications, and make a decision I knew I might come to regret. Certainly I was regretting it that day. I chose freely which way to walk home, and I made the wrong decision. I had just finished my cleaning shift in school, after the end of the lessons. We took turns cleaning our classroom in groups of 4, but the boys often made excuses and only the girls were left. I shared the shift with my friend Alona. On a normal day, Alona and I would leave the school after cleaning, stop by the old woman who sat on the pavement at the corner of the road selling sunflower seeds, and we would ask her, "Can we try them? Are they salted or unsalted? Roasted or unroasted?" The woman would open one of the 3 sacks she carried, the roasted and salted one, the roasted and unsalted, the unroasted and unsalted, and we would try a couple of seeds from each. When we had spare coins, there was plenty of choice. After, we would turn left to go to Alona's house, munching sunflower seeds and struggling a little to let ourselves in with the rusty keys attached to her mother's necklace, which she wore beneath her school uniform. There, we would have to choose which game to play. In December it was easy. At that time of the year, preparations for the National Song Contest started, and we would make up our own songs and pretend we were going to appear on national television. I wrote the lyrics while Alona sang them, and sometimes I offered a drum accompaniment by using a large wooden spoon to beat the pans in the kitchen.